Look at the history of your life. You have worked hard. You have sacrificed. You have sweated. Yet it seems that every time you get close to your breakthrough, a dark cloud appears over your house. A sudden bad luck, a financial emergency, a crisis that pulls you right back into the pit of poverty. I want you to look at me and I will tell you the hidden truth. Poverty is not a lack of money. Poverty is a spirit of bondage. And that spirit is bound to your house, not by the circumstances outside, but by the emotional change you permit inside. You are fighting a physical battle that must first be won in your soul, in the mind, and within the problem of your own home. My beloved friends, I have traveled this world, and I have seen the same story repeated in every nation. A person working themselves to death, yet their bank account remains empty, and their home remains a fortress of lack. Why? Because your enemy does not attack your pocket first. He attacks your imagination. He attacks your emotions. He comes to your home and he plants the seed of fear. When you walk through that door and see the bills, when you look at the mounting debt, when you feel the heavy burden and you allow that fear to settle in your spirit, you have just signed a lease agreement with the spirit of poverty. Fear is an emotional chain that binds the bad luck to your furniture, to your walls, and to your finances. But you can, child of destiny. You have been given authority. And the divine wisdom I must impart to you today is the power of spiritual and emotional detachment in your dwelling place. This is the act of supreme confidence. This is the act that breaks the curse. I am not telling you to ignore the bills. I am telling you to evict the anxiety. When the spirit of lack comes knocking at your door, you must have the inner strength, the purpose-driven confidence to say, you are not welcome here. My eyes see the natural circumstance, but my spirit refuses to react to it. Detachment means you look at the problem, but you do not emotionally agree with it. It means your heart is secured in a reality that is higher than the temporal world you can touch. The great difference between those who prosper and those who perpetually struggle is what they permit their mouths to declare within the four walls of their home. Every time you speak a word of worry, a word of doubt, or a word of defeat about your situation, you are literally giving that dark spirit legal permission to stay. You must understand the law of the fourth dimension. This world is controlled by your spoken word and your vivid imagination. If you want to say goodbye to poverty and bad luck, you must turn your home into an altar of faith. Every room must vibrate with the language of success, abundance, and victory. When you detach your emotions from the threat of lack, your voice automatically shifts from pleading to commanding. The home must become your sanctuary of unshakable faith. It is not enough to pray once a week. You must actively maintain this atmosphere. Look at your kitchen, your living room, your bedroom. These are the territories you must secure. Refuse to carry the emotional stress of the world inside. When you stop emotionally clinging to the crisis, when you refuse to give it a voice, your physical world has no choice but to adjust itself to your internal spiritual security. Go home and declare the security of your destiny. Go home and evict the fear. Go home and confess only prosperity. And watch as the bad luck and the poverty flee from your lives, where prosperity is declared and where lack is fundamentally unwelcome. My friends, we must face this fundamental truth. Poverty and bad luck are not accidental occurrences. They are fundamentally spiritual atmospheres. They are the visible, tangible fruit of an invisible, sustained spirit of fear, worry, and lack that has been allowed to take root, especially within the confines of your own dwelling. The enemy's greatest victory is to make you believe that the problem is the interest rate, the salary, or the economy. But I tell you, the problem is the air you breathe inside your house, the atmosphere that is generated by your sustained imagination of lack. You see, the home is not just a structure of wood and brick. It is the spiritual anchor of your life. It is the vessel that holds your most persistent thoughts, your deepest fears, and your most vivid confessions. when you permit constant anxiety over bills, when every conversation at the dinner table centers on what you cannot do, what you do not have, and the failures of the past, you are literally manufacturing a spiritual environment of bondage. You are not only attracting the spirit of poverty, you are creating a comfortable habitat for it. This is why two families can live in identical houses, yet one thrives in overflowing prosperity, and the other constantly battles misfortune. The difference is not the address, it is the spiritual climate that has been intentionally cultivated. Therefore, your greatest work of faith is to transform your dwelling into a spiritual anchor, a fortified place where the negative thoughts of the world are not just resisted, but intentionally and consistently denied entry. This requires spiritual violence, a holy intolerance for fear. When the door opens and the worries of the marketplace try to follow you inside, you must become the spiritual gatekeeper, declaring, "Thus far and no further." The bad luck hangs around your life because it hears your confession of defeat inside your own four walls. You must learn to deny the sensory input. Even if the refrigerator is empty, you must stand in your kitchen and declare abundance. Even if the bank statement is zero, you must visualize and articulate the overflow. This is the divine principle. You override the visible reality with the invisible, confessed truth. You are not praying for your home to change. You are commanding your home to anchor the change you have already confessed in the spiritual realm. The moment you take dominion over the atmosphere of your home, replacing the spirit of fear with the confident imagination of faith and destiny, the physical manifestations of poverty and bad luck will have no choice but to dissipate and flee, for they cannot stand in the presence of that divine atmosphere. Your home must be known as the place where faith lives, where prosperity is declared, and where lack is fundamentally unwelcome. I want to speak to you now about the most powerful secret of all spiritual warfare, the key to permanent victory over every cycle of poverty and every cloud of bad luck. Detachment is divine confidence. Many people confuse true strength with the desperate act of clinging to hope. They cling to their last dollar, they cling to their job, they cling to the prayer they offered yesterday. But I tell you, when you cling, your hope is rooted in fear. You cling because you are afraid to lose, and that fear immediately gives the circumstances outside of you power over the peace inside of you. That is not faith, that is emotional desperation. True faith, true inner strength is revealed in the glorious spiritual act of emotional detachment. It is the moment you look at the mounting debt, you look at the crisis, you look at the sudden unexpected setback, and you simply refuse to let the circumstances you see dictate the declaration you speak. This detachment is not indifference, it is the highest form of spiritual security. It is the non-reaction that proves your source is not material. It proves that your trust is not in what your eyes can survey or what your hands can touch. When the crisis comes screaming at you, demanding an emotional response of panic, the detached heart stands still and says, "My life is rooted in the eternal. My destiny is secured by the King of Glory. This setback is temporary, but my purpose is forever." You refuse to lend your emotions to the enemy's scenario. You are not arguing with the lack, you are denying its right to occupy your soul. This non-reaction, this spiritual stability, is the key that breaks the cycle of bad luck. Bad luck and poverty are parasites. They feed on the emotional energy of fear, worry, and frantic clinging. When you withdraw that energy, when you stand detached, calm, and purposeful, you literally starve the spirit of lack to death. Your greatest strength is not in fighting the circumstance, it is in refusing to react to it. When your voice and your imagination continue to declare prosperity, health, and victory, even while the enemy is shouting defeat, you demonstrate a confidence so profound, so absolute, that the spiritual world recognizes it as divine authority. The visible world is forced to bow to the invisible conviction in your heart. You are not a victim of your temporary situation. You are a commander of your eternal destiny. Cultivate this powerful detachment in your home, and the world of the fourth dimension will surely take dominion over the world of the third. I want to speak a profound truth into your spirit today. Something that holds the power to utterly dismantle the cycles of failure and lack in your life. The spiritual temperature of your home is set by the quality of your verbal confession. Your physical dwelling is not controlled by the weather outside or the economic climate in the nation. It is controlled by the confessional thermostat that you and only you operate with your tongue. If your life is perpetually cold, barren, and under the shadow of bad luck, it is because your words have been setting the thermostat too low, creating an environment where the spirits of poverty feel perfectly at home. You must grasp this divine principle. Our words are not empty sound, they are spiritual vehicles. They carry the power to either manifest the circumstances we fear or to create the reality we desire. When you walk into your kitchen or your living room and you declare, "I am so broke," or "we will never get ahead," or "this bad luck always follows me," you are using the language of reaction. You are merely reporting the visible, temporary reality of the third dimension. And in that very moment, you are consciously turning the spiritual thermostat down, inviting the cold, destructive atmosphere of lack to settle in and claim dominion. This is why you must understand that to say goodbye to poverty, you must first say goodbye to the language of reaction. The divine mandate is to replace that reactive language with the language of creation. This is the language of faith, the language of the fourth dimension, which speaks not of what is, but of what must be. This is not lying, it is overriding the visible temporary fact with the invisible eternal truth. The bank account may shout lack, but your mouth must shout abundance. The body may whisper sickness, but your mouth must declare healing. This is the spiritual violence required to take back your territory. You must fill your home with a constant positive vibration, a wave of confessed victory that is so strong it literally cleanses the air of any lingering demonic influence. Every room in your house must become accustomed to hearing the sound of destiny. When you walk from the bedroom to the hall, your steps should be decrees of prosperity. When you sit in your chair, your conversation must be saturated with expectation, not complaint. You are not begging God to change your reality. You are acting as His authorized agent, enforcing the promised reality right where you live. This confident, persistent confession, this active turning up of the confessional thermostat, is the undeniable sign that your faith is alive and taking dominion. The physical world is stubborn, but it is ultimately powerless against the steady, persistent declaration of invisible truth. When you consistently speak the language of creation in your home, the bad luck cannot stay, for it cannot survive in a climate set for victory. I want to bring you to the culmination of this revelation today, the ultimate act of faith that secures your lasting prosperity and banishes bad luck forever. I am talking about the power of purpose-driven non-reaction. Many live their lives like a cork bobbing on the ocean, tossed by every wave of bad news, pulled by every current of crisis, and constantly reacting to the emergencies of the moment. This life of reaction is the very essence of spiritual instability, and instability is the magnet for poverty. When you are always reacting, your focus is on the problem, your energy is scattered, and your spiritual temperature plummets. You are living the life of the victim, dictated by circumstances, not the life of the commander, dictated by divine purpose. Prosperity, true prosperity, is secured the moment you transition from a life governed by crisis to a life rooted in the eternal, unshakable foundation of your God-given destiny. You see, when you know your purpose, when you know the mandate given to you from the throne of heaven, The temporary storms of lack and misfortune become utterly insignificant. Your focus is so firmly fixed on the finish line, on the great work you have been called to do, that a setback in the material realm simply cannot provoke a panic in your soul. This state of non-reaction is not laziness or apathy. It is the most powerful demonstration of faith imaginable. It is the spiritual stability that refuses to budge. This non-reaction must be practically demonstrated within the four walls of your dwelling. When a financial shock hits the family, does the house descend into screaming, blame, and frantic illogical schemes? Or does it remain a place of stillness, where you can look at the problem and calmly ask, how does this affect my divine purpose? It doesn't. This deliberate calm, this spiritual composure is the signpost the heavenly realm looks for. It confirms that the truth of God's promise has sunk so deep into your spirit that the material world no longer holds the authority to move you. This is the sign that the world of the fourth dimension has fully taken dominion over your material life. When you are rooted in purpose, you understand that your income is not your source. Your divine calling is your source. Your job is simply the channel. Therefore, when a channel is restricted, you do not panic. You simply declare a new, better channel. You are not fighting for survival. You are working from the abundance of your calling. Bad luck cannot attach itself to a person who is moving forward with clarity of purpose, because that purposeful momentum generates a spiritual wind that blows every dark cloud away. Make the decision today. Move from the frantic, reactive life of the victim to the stable, non-reactive life of divine purpose. That stability in your home will be the final signature on your decree of deliverance. Therefore, I declare over you, go home, stand in the authority of your detachment, replace fear with faith, and by the power of your persistent confession, you will surely see the overflow of the fourth dimension break forth